Same problem as in the first half of chapter 2. Some words will be changed or erased in here because of the banning risk. Read the whole chapter on AO3. Link in the description box. Kyumi kept his word. He didn't stop by any more in the next following days, even weeks, after the fateful kiss. Atsumu should have known better. He should have known that Kyumi only wanted him for his scent. That no one will ever want him for the person he is. That everyone is just curious about what kind of scent it is that Atsumu is hiding so eagerly. And then they let him fall. Again and again and again. Stop sighing, scrub. Osamu sips on his coffee and watches his brother skeptically. He has seen him way too often like this and he hates it every single time. Oh fuck off, Samu. Can't even smell you, but yeah, look alone is already polluting the whole atmosphere here. The only one contaminating my cafe is you, prick. At least I can keep my pheromones under control. Atsumu scowls at Osamu and takes the empty cup of coffee from the counter. Suna, who is sitting next to Osamu and has his arms crossed in front of his chest, just snorts, finding the twins bitching quite amusing. He definitely missed that. Since the EJP Ragins have a week off, he went back to Hyogo from Nagano to visit his friends and family. Of course, he wouldn't miss the chance to meet his two best friends in Osaka too. What's going on, anyway? Osamu asks, pulling on his 𝒂𝒒𝒉𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒔 cap while glaring at his twin brother. From behind Osamu, Akashi lays a hand on his biceps and leans down. Then he starts in a low voice. "Sakusa-san is acting strange again." Now Atsumu shoots a glare at Immaculate Kun, who is only shrugging his shoulders and pressing his lips together to give him a flat smile. Atsumu slightly hates that he is always on Osamu's side. Actually, he doesn't hate it a bit. He just envies the two for being silly and still in denial about their mutual feelings. "Why don't you two just fuck off already?" Atsumu complains. "Shouldn't you be nicer to your employees?" Osamu cocks an eyebrow. "I think you will be nice enough to Kiji-kun," Atsumu counters bitterly, and Osamu just scoffs. "At least I don't kiss my ex." Now Suna chokes on his coffee. Wait, what? His eyebrows shoot up while giving Atsumu a puzzled look. The Omega rolls his eyes and leans against the counter, sighing in frustration. He actually really doesn't want to talk about what went down between him and Kyumi a few weeks ago. Especially because, once again, he is no longer in touch with him. Because he has been dumped yet again. "It was nothing," he mutters, arms crossed in front of his chest and gaze lowered to the ground. Suna catches immediately that it's not nothing but remains silent, eyeing Atsumu calmly. He hasn't gotten back to Atsumu-san since. "Kiji, what the fuck?" Atsumu interrupts Akashi and the latter throws his arms up in surrender. Yeah, maybe he really shouldn't bring it up right now. He grabs his stuff from behind the counter instead and walks back to Osamu, watching Atsumu skeptically. "Are you sure I can leave you alone, Atsumu-san? The cafe is quite packed today." Atsumu nods and waves him and Osamu off. "Yeah, don't worry. Go do whatever onigiri creation you wanted to try out this time." Akashi blushes while Atsumu pinches the bridge of his nose, knowing full well that he had practically given his one and only employee the day off just to get laid by his own twin brother again. Suddenly Atsumu remembers the words of Oikura. He really needs to get a grip on his brother and Akashi. "Don't worry, Akashi, I'm gonna help Atsumu out." Suna smirks while standing up, joining Atsumu behind the counter, and Atsumu isn't sure if he can trust this one. "Okay, but if something's up, I will call you." "Yes. Now leave already. Take care of him, will ya?" Osamu says seriously, and Suna smirks in return, putting an arm around Atsumu's shoulder and pulling the Omega close to him. "Of course, I will. When have I ever not?" Osamu rolls his eyes and grins. Just as Atsumu didn't want to know about Osamu and Akashi's bedtime stories, Osamu didn't want to know about Suna and Atsumu's. Osamu, being the gentleman that he is, takes the bag from Handsome Kun and throws it over his shoulder. The two bid goodbye to Atsumu and Suna and leave the cafe to continue their own shenanigans at Osamu's 𝒂𝒒𝒉𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒔 restaurant. Osamu knows that his brother is in safe hands with Suna and he is glad that the alpha would take care of him. Atsumu, still in Suna's arm, peers up at him and is transfixed by an analyzing look from Rin. Atsumu frowns as he notices that Suna's expression is anything but smug and his shit-eating grin is long gone. He looks at the Omega much more judgmentally, though his gaze is completely indifferent. "What?" Atsumu spits out, but Suna remains silent and just stares at him. "So, you and Sakusa, huh?" he finally says, and Atsumu's heart drops to the pit of his stomach. He feels sick thinking about Kyumi, and he feels even sicker having to talk about him to Suna, of all people. He swallows thickly and rolls his eyes, detaching himself from Rin's grip to continue preparing some orders. "Told you it was nothing," Atsumu mutters, but Suna doesn't believe him shit. "Really? You wanna fool me, of all people?" Atsumu flinches because, fucking god, yes, it's ridiculous. Suna Rintaro probably knows him better than anyone else. Probably even better than he knows himself. Atsumu sets aside his utensils and exhales an exasperated sigh. He turns to Suna and leans back against the counter, crossing his arms in front of his chest and frowning. He doesn't know if it's the queasy feeling at the thought of SakuAtsu or if he's probably on the verge of getting seriously sick, because with every second that passes he feels worse. The air burns in his lungs with every breath he takes. It's a mellow day in autumn and Atsumu is incredibly hot, even though he's already wearing only shorts and his light apricot sweater, and his scent glands are itching so badly he'd like to rip off all the patches. He's stopped by a lot ever since he joined the MSBY Blackjackals. Suna stands in front of Atsumu and folds his arms as well, observing the Omega from head to toe, but Atsumu's gaze was averted from him. He is racking his brains and frowning, loosening his arms, and starting to fidget with his fingers. I don't know. Thought he wanted to make things up with me. That he maybe regretted breaking up with me or something. So we grew kinda closer again and you fell for him. Again. Suna arches his brows while Atsumu's gaze snaps up to him, feeling caught. The Omega's heart beat fast, a tad too fast for Atsumu's liking. We kissed. Atsumu replies instead and avoids the actual answer that would be yes. He brings his arms up and hugs himself. He's not sure what exactly makes him feel so hot and cold. He just wants to get rid of that feeling and Suna notices Atsumu's discomfort right away. He releases his soothing pheromones and scents Atsumu while taking a few steps toward him until he cages him. The taste of matcha tea fills Atsumu's mind and calms him down instantly, making him feel better. Besides Kyumi, Rintaro was probably the only alpha allowed to get so close to Atsumu, who is allowed to pull him into his frenzy. Suna props a palm on top of the counter behind Atsumu and plays with Atsumu's choker necklace before leaning down to him, nuzzling his cheek against Atsumu's and dazing the Omega even more. The tart, nutty but at the same time fruity flavor makes Atsumu relax. Suna's familiar aroma makes him feel better instantly. He's an asshole, Atsumu, the alpha murmurs right into his ear, sending chills down the Omega's spine. So are ya, Sunarin. Atsumu breathes, eyes closed while taking in everything Suna offers. Yeah, but I'm an asshole that cares about you. Suna detaches himself just enough to be able to look Atsumu into his golden eyes and Atsumu's breath hitches. It's been so long since they last nestled between the sheets and Atsumu really craves some physical touch. Suna grabs Atsumu's chin, lifts his head up, and pulls his face close to his own. His lips grazed Atsumu's, never enough to actually linger on them, but Atsumu parted them anyway, eyes hooded and his gaze stuck on Suna's mouth. Your heat is about to come, Rin states unfazed, eyes bored. Need me? His what? Heat? How did Atsumu miss that? No wonder the feeling of being trapped with all those scent blockers is especially bad today. Atsumu's gaze shifts back and forth between Suna's emerald eyes, his lips now pressed together again, his heart a little more under control, or at least he thinks so. Atsumu scrunches his eyebrows together, partly letting Rin captivate him, but before he could answer anything, he's snapped out of his thoughts by a far too familiar voice. If you two are done then. Atsumu's heart stops. For good this time. The sour scent pricks his mind and Atsumu blushes immediately once he recognizes his and Suna's position. He snatches Rin's hand away and yanks his head back, his eyes wide open. Omi, Atsumu breathes, surprised to see the alpha here again. I'm here to pick up MSBY's order, he says through gritted teeth, his gaze fixed on the patch on Atsumu's mating gland at first, then glaring at Suna. That's right, Okura has placed another order for a part of the team to be taken care of before their practice. Atsumu has already prepared most of it, but Rin has distracted him so much that he hasn't gotten around to making the remaining 2 coffees yet. Much to his misfortune, his cafe is quite crowded and his customers are already looking for a waiter to take more orders. What a stupid idea it was to give Akashi time off. But then again Suna means what he said earlier. He puts his hand on Atsumu's shoulder and both the Omega and Kyumi flinch. The alpha scowls at Suna, however, while Suna meets Atsumu's startled gaze. What's left to do? It takes Atsumu a few seconds to understand what Suna means. Then it clicks. 2 black coffees. You can handle that? Suna nods and pours more soothing pheromones over him, trying to calm him down, take away his stress. Atsumu gently rests his hand on Suna's biceps and stares up deep into his eyes. Thank you, Rin, he then whispers, for being able to avoid Kyumi. Suna gives him a simple nod and a flat smile, sends Atsumu away from the counter, and takes care of the order for MSBY. Atsumu swallows thickly, looks worriedly back and forth between the two alphas, but then decides that it's probably better not to get involved with Kyumi right now in this condition. Suna would take care of it. Atsumu trusts him. So he leaves Kyumi to Rin and God. Two alphas both rivaling each other over the same Omega really never goes well. Suna finishes the rest of the orders and places the previously prepared coffees in a box to make it easier for Kyumi to transport them to the gym. He peers at Kyumi out of the corner of his eye, his gaze obnoxious and cocky. Kyumi just scowls at him. With his mask on he doesn't really let Suna get a glimpse of his true expression. Kyumi's blood boiled with anger. To say he hates seeing Atsumu with that bastard would be the understatement of the millennium. Kyumi had never liked Suna. Not today, and not even back in high school. Can you stop forcing your crappy scent on Atsumu? That's the last thing he wants. Kyumi hisses through his mask, his tone sharp. Suna just snorts, the corners of his mouth twitching. What? Because you know so well what he needs. Suna didn't want Atsumu, at least not in a romantic sense. But Kyumi pissed him off, and Atsumu was his best friend who deserved so much better than that asshole. Besides, Suna has always had unfathomable fun picking a fight. He is, and always will be a jerk. Definitely no fucking matcher. Kyumi scrunches up his nose and looks snidely at Suna as the latter just chuckles dismissively to himself and focuses his gaze back on the coffee machine. Kyumi sits down on a bar stool in front of the counter while waiting for his order and turns to look for Atsumu. He was hoping to be able to talk to him, to explain his situation, because damn it, he shouldn't have acted that way when they kissed, and most of all, he shouldn't have let Atsumu think that he only wanted him for his addictive scent, because that's not the case by any means. Kyumi's gaze falls over and over again on Atsumu's glands on his thighs, especially on his mating gland in the crook of his neck. Of course, Suna catches this immediately. He sees through Kyumi and hates him a bit more the moment he understands why Kyumi acts the way he does. I'd say that my and Tsumu's scent wouldn't be a terrible match at all. What do you even know? Kyumi snorts, his gaze still averted from Suna and fixed on Atsumu, barely listening to that jerk. But Suna knows exactly how he would get his attention. Well, you know. The tart, nutty aroma of my matcha combined with, what was it? Freshly baked pie, caramelized almonds, molten butter. Atsumu's unique scent of bee sting cake. Kyumi's head snaps back to Suna, his eyes wide, his stomach churning. What? Suna looks down at Kyumi, grinning triumphantly and cockily, knowing full well that he's hit him where it would hurt the most. That point is for Suna. You think just because he treats you like a god, he will never let anyone else touch him? Taste him? Kyumi swallows. Thickly. He sees red. His blood boils with rage and all he wants to do was jump down Suna's throat. Nothing stirs in him but hatred for the alpha before him, burning rage that makes all his muscles tense and his hands clench into fists. He feels numb, barely aware of his surroundings, and for God's sake, he can no longer control his pheromones. Suna just grins nastily. He has Kyumi right where he wanted him. You know. Suna continues to smirk and finishes the two orders. He puts them together and walks around the counter to stand next to Kyumi, their gazes constantly fixed on each other. You probably can't remember but, he says while putting the box with the different coffees in front of Kyumi on top of the counter. Suna leans down to him and places a hand on his shoulders, then whispers into his ear. Atsumu was damn good. Kyumi snaps. A fist claws into Suna's jacket and the bar stool Kyumi was sitting on seconds before is pushed back with a squeak until it finally topples over. Kyumi has stood up abruptly and is gripping Suna by the collar tightly, absolutely ready to punch him in the face at any second. Are you telling me you had your filthy hands on Atsumu? Suna just grins, unimpressed by Kyumi's anger and power because he was at least as dominant. No. Instead he tilts his head and answers deviously. You missed out on so much. Kyumi's grip on Suna tightened, his heart racing, and all he wants to do was rip him to shreds, tear that stupid grin apart, and... Oomi. What? Sakusa spits out, noticing the second after that Atsumu's hand lingers on his arm, gripping it. His scowl subsides the moment he sees the Omega. Guilt is flooding him. Atsumu looks fucking miserable. Looks like it's taking all his strength to intervene between the alphas right now because damn, those pheromones they were both emitting were fucking suffocating. Kyumi gulps and lets go of Suna, taking his order and leaving Atsumu's cafe with no further word. He needs to get out of here before he loses his mind and does things that could potentially cause him to lose Atsumu completely. And all Atsumu can do is look after him, watch him leave once again, being hurt and confused. He's a coward, Atsumu, Suna says nonchalantly while fixing his jacket, his gaze directed contemptuously at Sakusa. He's afraid he might accidentally bond with you. Atsumu jerks his head back to Suna, looking at him startled, almost glaring at him. Wah. The way he stared at your neck? God, are you that oblivious? It's obvious. Atsumu frowns and looks at Suna in confusion. The latter puts the bar stool back in its place and goes back behind the counter. Honestly can't believe that Atsumu didn't realize this from the beginning. You said he dumped you after you did it for the first time? And now he kisses you and avoids you just because he gets near your mating gland? Atsumu swallows. His head is spinning. Of course, Suna must be right. It's the explanation Kyumi never gave him, the reason he's acting this way towards Atsumu. It would all make sense. And suddenly Atsumu feels so much worse. Maybe Kyumi never wanted him to be his mate. That's probably why he always cut him off before it was too late. He most likely wanted to protect both himself and Atsumu. But wouldn't that mean it could never work out between them? Atsumu is ripped from his thoughts when Suna throws his jacket in his face, which Atsumu catches at the last moment. Hey. He scowls at the alpha, initially startled by this. Put my jacket on and close the cafe. Atsumu. Your heat is getting the better of you. Atsumu blinks a few times, looking at Suna dumbfounded. You can't think straight right now, so whatever thought plants itself in that thick skull of yours, yank it back out of there. You should talk to 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒔 once your heat is over, yeah. Atsumu blinks again. Suddenly Suna is standing in front of him again. Hey, I can really help you out again for this time. Atsumu. Rin, we ended this between us when you confessed to me that you had feelings for Komori. I've gotten through my heat without you before, so no need to worry. Then at least let me walk you home. No. Double quote. Atsumu says it faster than he meant to. Yes, the signs of his heat may have been there, but he didn't feel that bad yet. The only thing overwhelming him at the moment was the news about Kyumi and him. Atsumu. It's fine, Rin. I wanted to try out a few more things anyway and that usually always manages to calm me down. Grant me some me time, will ya? I think that's all I need right now. Besides, weren't you supposed to go on a phone date with Motoa? Suna looks at him with a furrowed brow, visibly torn as to whether he can really leave Atsumu alone. He looks around and sees that the cafe is getting less crowded the later it gets, and as long as Atsumu is wearing his scent blockers, nothing can really happen to him. Just go already, Sunarin. Yeah, evening doesn't belong to me, it belongs to Komori. You text me. As soon as anything happens, you get back to me right away. Atsumu. Yes I will. Samu and Akashi are still available too, okay. And Kava always has his phone within reach, so I can still call him if anything comes up. You should really go home to your nest. I need a distraction, Rin. He smiles at him almost sadly. Suna just nods, understanding. He pulls Atsumu into a tight hug and showers him with some more pheromones, making sure his heat isn't triggered by anything else and the Omega feels relaxed enough again. Atsumu inhales deeply, letting the comforting scent of matcha numb his senses one last time, and is just so incredibly thankful to Rin. Thank you for being here. Always, moron. They break away from each other, and once Rin makes sure all the customers have left, he steps out of Atsumu's cafe as well, leaving the Omega alone just like he wanted. Atsumu was okay when Suna left, but the more time passes the worse he feels. All his thoughts are with Kyumi, with their kiss, with his lips and his fingers gliding on his skin. He feels so sick, the scent blockers on his glands burn disgustingly, so he rips them off and floods his cafe with his overwhelming scent. The air in his lungs is burning, he needs someone to relieve it. Kyumi. Atsumu feels so weak and vulnerable, he needs someone strong by his side. Kyumi. His stomach churns, stinging pain is running through his whole body, and he needs someone to ease it. Kyumi. Missing Kyumi comes in waves. Tonight, Atsumu is drowning. He grips the top of the counter to support himself but his legs are too weak, so they give out. Atsumu kneels down and clutches his stomach. His breathing is heavy. He should have gone home when Suna told him to. Thoughts of Kyumi triggered his heat even more and made it kick in earlier than expected. Atsumu reaches for his phone and tries to dial 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒔 number, but the voice that answers his call sounds nothing like the flirtatious 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒔. Oomi. Atsumu knits his eyebrows together, frowns, and checks his phone in confusion. Shit, why was he calling Kyumi of all people? Is everything okay? What's wrong? Atsumu's head spins. He has to suppress a deep wail as a gush of pain and heat runs through his lower body. Fuck. Oomi. Atsumu almost pants. I need your help.